The Packers have 4 rookies among their skill position guys. Both the tight ends, Tucker Kraft, 3rd-round pick. Musgrave was a 2nd-round pick. And then they've got Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks. And Reed has been their number 1 receiver if you look at the numbers this year. 64 catches, 793 yards, 10 touchdowns. But, man, Wicks has been coming on. 4 touchdowns all in the past 3 games, and he's a big-bodied guy, very strong, good player at Virginia. Outside of Aaron Jones, who do you think is the receiver for Green Bay that you would most want to take away? I know Dobbs is coming off the 150 game against Dallas, but Reed had 112 or something like that the week before. And then, as I mentioned, Wicks has been hot. Christian Watson is a vertical threat, but Bo Melton's really good. I mean, this is in some ways makes things very kind of complicated from a defensive standpoint. Is there a weapon that you would want to take away besides Jones?
It's hard to pinpoint just one weapon. And this Packers offense is so diverse in the amount of skill players that they do have. And all of these things kind of aligning and all of these things coming together for the Packers is why they were able to get hot and finish the season 8-3 after that 2-5 start. Offensive line is playing really well. Jordan Love has made some just great adjustments and strides in his development in the first full season as a starter. Over his last 5 games, he has a passer rating of 126.5. He's thrown for more than 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns, no picks. And in his last 10 games, he's thrown 23 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So he's also making good decisions with the football. And I think that Matt LaFleur, we've seen a little bit of a change in philosophy and play calling this year compared to when he had Aaron Rodgers. Say what you want about Aaron Rodgers, right? Guy's a gifted thrower of the football, maybe the most gifted thrower of the football that we've seen in quite some time. But when you have a player like that, and for so long, when you have a player like Davante Adams, you're going to let Aaron Rodgers do his thing because it's masterful and it's a spectacle what he's able to do and he can spin it. But what happens is you rely on Aaron Rodgers. He has say in the game plan. He makes changes at the line of scrimmage because he has that autonomy and that power. And then you stray away from the run game. But this year, with an inexperienced quarterback in Jordan Love and with the really good running back in Aaron Jones, Matt LaFleur has really called games a little bit more evenly where they rely on the ground as well as that aerial attack. And it's kind of like that 50-50 approach that the Niners have, which makes them really dangerous, multiple, diverse, and very difficult to stop. And when you look at the weapons on this Packers team, they're actually the only team in the NFL with 6 pass catchers who had 300 to 800 receiving yards. So this is going to be a big test for this Niners secondary because going back to your question, who do you key in on and who do you take away? I think point number 1, you have to stop Aaron Jones in the ground game because the ground game sets up the pass game for the Packers. And if you force Jordan Love to beat you from the pocket consistently and you take away that ground game, I like the Niners' chances. But if the Packers are able to set the tone early in this game and they can run it against a Niners team that on average faces the least amount of carries per game in the NFL and is bad tackling, and then Love is able to operate out of play action and pick you apart through the air, then this defense could be in a precarious spot. Jaden Reed is really good. Romeo Doubs went crazy against Dallas. Dontavian Wicks is a very good player. Christian Watson has barely played because of hamstring injuries, but still an explosive threat who's tall, who can take the top off of the defense and get vertical, but because he's 6'5", he's a good red zone threat. In limited action this year, he still had 28 catches for 422 yards and 5 touchdowns. And I've tuned into your show a couple of times this week. As high as you are on the tight ends, I love him as well. And with Dre Greenlaw dealing with this Achilles injury, it's going to be a big game for Greenlaw against the pass, as well as Fred Warner, because Tucker Kraft is really good. 31 catches, 355, and 2 touchdowns this year. Luke Musgrave, 34 grabs and 2 touchdowns. Try to decide which tight end is better. I'm not really sure. So Love is playing good. Offensive line is providing pass protection. They're opening up holes in the running game. And then through the air, Matt LaFleur has gotten really, really creative with a lot of pre-snap motion. And then they can put out 4, 5, 6 weapons combined at running back, wide receiver, and tight end on any given play. And if you're Steve Wilks, you're like, who do we key in on? And if an injury happens in that Niners secondary, that's not going to be good because the backups in that secondary for San Francisco a little bit light, whereas the backups and some of the role players in this Packers offense at those skill positions are very, very good.
The Niners know Aaron Jones. He knows them. They've gone head to head against Jones in the past. He's a good receiver and he's a good runner.
Yep.
What do you think, though? I mean, do you think that he had success last week because Dallas is not great at stopping the run? I mean, the 49ers do have Greenlaw. They do have Warner. They are like third in the NFL at stopping the run. How do you see this one? I mean, this Green Bay's rush offense, ranking wise, is 15th, but Jones was out, so they're really better now than that number would indicate. And the Niners' run defense is third overall, and yet, you know what? I think that number might be a little high, to be completely honest, because their offense has taken. The teams don't run it as much, and they don't commit to the run. Because they fall behind against the 49ers. So I'm a little worried. I think Green Bay's rushing attack is a little bit better than their ranking, and I'm a little concerned that the 49er rush defense is a little worse than their ranking. How do you see the Niners' ability to shut down Jones? Because it seems like Aaron Jones, and if he has success, that could be the difference in this ball game. Shutting him down has got to be Steve Wilks' number one plan for Saturday night.
No doubt. And we saw against the Cowboys what happened. Very rarely does a team win the coin toss and not defer. Packers took the ball because they wanted to go right down the field, and that's exactly what they did. And point number one for the Packers and the emphasis for that offense and Matt LaFleur was to run the football. And they found success in running it with Aaron Jones. And then what did the Packers start to do from there? You can't stack the box against this team because if you do and you're light on that back end, they're going to throw all those aforementioned weapons at you, and then they're going to operate out of the play action. And what happened to Dallas? They all crashed up toward the line and trying to stop the run, and then the pop passes started getting sprinkled on that back end by Jordan Love. So that's what's so difficult to defend about this Packers team. Now, Aaron Jones has more than 100 yards in 4 straight games. He's a really good back, and he's been a good back for a long time. Another concern is that if you bring pressure on Jordan Love, not only can he move off his spot, not only can he throw from different arm angles. When you're in his face, he drops it down to kind of that side arm or that 3/4 to get the ball around you. He kind of has that Aaron Rodgers ability to kind of fade away from the rush, buy some time, then off the back foot, little flick of the wrist, throw a touch and accuracy. But if you blitz Jordan Love and Aaron Jones fakes as a pass protector and then he leaks out, and you blitz and you don't have guys on that back end, that's a chunk play for Aaron Jones in the passing game. Now, on the ground, look at the opponents that the Packers have had success against running the football. Cowboys, Bears, Vikings, Panthers. Not juggernauts by any means. And those teams are not the San Francisco 49ers. But what's also a little bit of an issue for me, and you kind of threw that out there a little while ago, is that the Niners' defense against the run is a little bit deceiving. Yards per rush allowed, 4.1. It's 14 among 32 teams. Rushing yards per game, they're number 3 at 89.7. And then rushing touchdowns allowed per game, number 5 at 0.6. That sounds good, right? But context is really important in any type of debate, any type of argument, any type of conversation. So while those numbers do sound good, the Niners on average face the least amount of rushes per game at 21.7. So they don't have to face run-heavy teams often. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Teams have tried to target their secondary, but mostly teams have not run it because the 49ers get out to an early lead, and they're so difficult to stop when they're ahead. And I think that San Francisco is the most dominant team in football when they're playing from ahead, because then Kyle Shanahan gets in his bag, and he starts to feel himself, and the Niners can hit you with the run, they can hit you with the pass, and when they're really, really humming, and when they're ahead, they're so difficult to stop. So, again, that's a big key, is getting out to an early lead in this game. But tackling is also a huge issue for this 49ers defense all year long. And if they miss a couple of tackles and they can't stop the run, that just leads to Jordan Love being able to really manipulate the defense and target the secondary, hit you with some play action, and have success through the air as well.